respectful of one another. At this time, we're having some problems, I know, with maybe the Skype. I'm going to ask that whenever, if we're going to go, I think we only have 2 people, I hope, that are, you guys have questions for on Skype, because I need to take a break, and then they need to connect, and then we need to get back to discussion. So I really want today to be discussion of council members, okay? So, Council Member Ilagan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm guessing that the Skype's not working properly, and we can't get a hold of Dr. Cassie. Because the reason why I want to bring this up is because it's regarding food safety.
Okay. You have a question of Dr.
Yes, I do.
Chessie? Okay. Can he hear us?
Yes,
Okay. So please state your name for the record.
Bruce Chassie.
Okay, and Councilmember Ilagan, you may go ahead and ask him your question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Cassie, could you please give me a brief description of the qualifications?
No,
you have
excuse me,
regarding
wait. Order. I don't want brief descriptions. We go off on track on testimony, confusing that. Everybody can call up and ask for a brief description. We need a pointed question. It's not a brief description, but we're going to ask pointed questions, because this is a county council discussion. We're discussing it among county council. We don't have testimony available to any public. So it's not fair that we are calling, asking roundabout questions so somebody can give some type of testimony. That's not fair. At the very beginning, I stated we needed a pointed question. We need a question that you're not aware of that needs to be answered. And on the other side, I would like you to answer the question, not give a brief summary of why you believe GMO is good or not good, or what you feel. You know, we're not having testimony. Okay, pointed questions, please.
Madam Chair, the only reason why I'm asking this question is because I could just bring in somebody off the street. I just want to give his qualifications, and then I have 2 questions after that.
Okay, can, Mr. Chassie, or is it Doctor?
Doctor.
Dr. Chassie, can you please give us your qualifications?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Let me ask the question. I just want your qualifications regarding food safety on GMOs. What makes you an expert in that field?
As professor and head of the Department of Food Science and Human Nutrition at the University of Illinois, I have been the chair of the food technologists panel on food safety and nutrition, and I've served on many national and international expert panels studying the safety of GMOs.
Thank you.
And written dozens of papers in the general area.
Thank you, Dr. Cassie. Now, my first question is, when a GMO, what's the regulation process for food safety regarding GMOs?
Well, it's a fairly complicated one, and you want a short answer. I'll try to be as brief as I can and say simply that the EPA, the USDA, and the FDA each require data of developers which point to the conclusion that before a GMO is marketed, it is as safe as or safer than any comparable food. That is to say, a GMO papaya is just as safe to eat as a conventional papaya.
Now, I'm trying to, because what I keep hearing is that the protein of the rainbow papaya is different from an organic papaya, and what I keep hearing is that the difference is hazardous to people's health. Could you please explain if it is hazardous to people's health or is it not?
It is definitely not hazardous to people's health. This is a conclusion that has been reached by not only our National Academy of Science and Academies of Science of Germany and Japan and countries around the world. It's worth noting that regulators, not just in the United States, but in many other countries, have approved this article of commerce, and in particular Japan, which is extremely precautionary in their regulatory process, has approved 189 different GMO varieties, including the rainbow papaya. I should also note, it's a technical point, the rainbow papaya has no new protein expressed in it. It's simply that the introduction of a gene from the virus, which is normally found in that papaya, which we eat by the billions, the overexpression of that gene shuts down the production of the virus.
Thank you on that.
Thank you, Dr. Cassidy. That's my question.
Councilmember Ford, and then Councilmember.
Thank you. Mr. Starr, you need to push the button so that the green light comes on. Can you respond?
Yes.
State your name and your position with the restaurant.
My name is Morgan Starr. I'm the chef owner at Mead's Italian Bistro in Kealakekua.
Thank you. Mr. Starr, we've not heard from anybody in the restaurant industry. Could you tell us the public's demand and reaction to having food that is organically produced for a restaurant?
Yes, of course. In a restaurant setting, we are questioned on a daily basis as to how we source our ingredients, and our locals and tourists alike are conscious consumers, we could say, and are regularly asking if things are organic and or GMO, to be honest.
Okay. And are the patrons of your restaurant satisfied that you're cooking with organically produced products?
I believe so. I don't believe we'd be in business 6 years later.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming in. I'm sorry that it took this long. Does anyone else have questions of this person? Okay, I'm sorry that we're not allowing testimony today, but I did want to get that information into the public record about the restaurants. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to get Dr. Seneff on the Skype, but we're having problems. Can we get Dr. Seneff on the Skype yet? Nora? Yes.
Okay, so while we prepare that, I'm going to go ahead with Councilmember Kern.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've probably spent close, in my calculations, a little over $20,000 so far. Taxpayer money having this conversation. And it's just going to keep climbing, and now we're having people from a restaurant come in. Do people choose to eat GMO or not? That's a restaurant's decision to do that. We're talking about agriculture and agricultural community. We're talking about, is this safe or not safe? That there's varying opinions on that. This is an ag problem that is in the realm, guys, of public safety. Now, I think we're just taking it way too far. And my concern here is that we're just going to keep going around and around and around and around and around and around and around. Where what we should do is form an ad hoc committee, bring the people together.
Point of order. The discussion regarding an ad hoc committee is another issue on the agenda.
I'm
We're
not
not
talking
there
about the
yet.
specifics of that. Thank you, Ms. Ford. Still my opinion on what to do with this bill. I think that's relevant. How are we ever going to move anywhere if I can't talk about that? We're going to be stuck here, going around and around and around and around. And when do we stop? When it's $60,000? When it's $100,000? And we're going broke? I don't think so. I think the bottom line is we're not qualified. We're not experts in these fields. And I think if we come together, bring the people together as we talked about earlier, and we should have just done this sooner, bring in the organics, bring in the conventionals, bring in the GMOs, bring in the scientists, bring in some non-biased people, have a couple council members on that, and put it together just like we're doing with the Real Property Tax Task Force. This would have the discussion. It would actually be able to get conclusions, law, findings, facts. It can be opened up to the public. People can watch the meeting. There's no problem with that. But what we're going to do is we're going to save a tremendous amount of money and actually get into a dialogue and discussion and come back with something that can be presented to the council and say, here's what we have, here it is. That's it, let's make a decision and let's vote. If we don't do that, we're going to continue, I just feel it, that's what's happening. It's no offense to anybody, it's just this process, we're trying to work it out here and get some information, and like I say, it's just going too far already, and everybody knows that I'm just trying to find balance here, I'm trying to make things work, trying to do the best thing we possibly can do for the Big Island, and it's a huge decision that we're making that's going to affect everybody, and we should be making the right decision in doing that, and I don't know, we can keep doing the same thing over and over again expecting a different result. That's insanity. Maybe we should change tack on this. Again, we're close to my calculations, $20,000 right now. That's not being fiscally responsible at this point in time. We should step back, should form the committee, should postpone this, and we should just move forward with that and actually come up with some findings of facts and conclusions along. That's my opinion, and I yield. Thank you.
Well, Councilmember Yoshimoto, then
Thank you, Madam Chair. Without getting into the specifics of the ad hoc committee, I know that's next on the agenda. I'm just going to basically explain my perception as far as what we're doing. We're getting a lot of information, while at the same time, I think we're also not being as efficient as we can. And Ms. Wille, I know you're the author of this bill, and I respect what you're trying to do, but at the same time, I do think we're reaching a certain point where we're spinning our wheels. And I know you wanted to wait till after we pass something, but my concern is that we could have been doing something as far as ad hoc committee all along. Because I'm not sure, and I can't predict how long it would take to pass something through this council, but I do believe that we need to pass something. I don't think we can just leave the status quo. At the same time, I don't feel like we're as capable as we could be, unless we receive further input from everyone getting together on the table. Kind of like exactly what you want to do for the ad hoc. So my suggestion, cutting to the point, is let's form the ad hoc committee now, and then we can continue along the path. And if the ad hoc committee can provide something, or the other option is, of course, to postpone it. But I'm not going to make that motion yet. But I just see that we're seeing both sides of the issue. There's extremes and then there's moderates. And you and I both know, the solution is somewhere in the middle, whether it's this side or that side. I don't think either extreme is the solution, right? So I know you're a problem solver, and so my suggestion is that we not hold off on the ad hoc committee, that we move forward, and if it can help us in the meantime, terrific. If it cannot, because the bill is moving forward for whatever reason, which we can't predict, because I can't predict it. I don't know if we're going to get past something today or the 15th or whenever it is. I mean, you said there are going to be 2 more readings at council. Last time when we talked about this, we knew that Mr. Onishi was going to be absent, so we were going to hold off on moving this forward until we came back to have his amendment or something to that effect. But anyway, my point is that if we at least form the ad hoc committee, then we can do something in that realm. And who knows, it could take a few meetings, it could take many meetings, but until we move that process forward, we won't know.
Okay, Councilmember Wille?
The choice is drawing the line where we are now and proceeding. If we don't, and we just form the ad hoc committee, I can tell you right now, it'll just nothing will happen. We have a window of opportunity between now and basically November, December. And what my bill does is, it's admitting, okay, there's science on both sides. It's just saying we're exempting those who are in. That's it. But we're not allowing more to come in. Listen to what Walter Ritty said. Everything here, and suddenly it's all over the place. The biotechs can say we don't intend to be here, but they're in this, holding a GMO summit with national and international people. So I'm just saying, my plan, I want to call the question. Let's move it forward. Let's move it forward and have...
Second.
Let's call for the question. There was a second. Is there any discussion on the call for the question? I don't think we don't have an option to...
It's not debatable.
It's not debatable, that's right, there's no discussion. So, Did you call for the question? It was seconded by Councilmember Kern. So what we're, excuse me, go ahead.
The call for a question is on the amendment.
On the amendment 393.51.
Thank you.
So,
Just explain what that is.
okay, so I'm gonna give, Ms. Wille, you sent this amendment through 393.51. So I'm gonna let Ms. Wille give a brief summary of that amendment so that we just refresh our memory so that before we go into the vote. Member Wille?
Yes, Amendment 393.51 amends my original bill. This would be for an article to protect Hawaii Island's agriculture heritage and its ecosystem from genetically engineered organisms. But what it does is it's drawing the line right where we are. It's allowing in the papaya industry, which is here, and it's grandfathering in all of those who are currently doing outdoor testing or outdoor, whatever they're doing outdoors. It doesn't prevent anything that's indoors, okay? So it's only preventing any further spread or further adoption of GMOs while we work on this problem in a deliberative way. There is clearly science on both sides, and like everyone said, we can't be the decider, but do we just sit here and say, okay, we're not going to pass anything and we're going to have this bill, and if and when it comes out, we'll do something? We can't. That's unrealistic. Look around the world. Look at Hawaii. Look at Molokai. Anyway, I'm not going to, I think that I took out, let me just say, on the bill, it still provides for registration so that our ad hoc committee is learning about what is going on. If we're going to have an ad hoc committee, we want to gather information. And the remedy, there was concern about what regulatory procedures we should have. What I did is I cut to just allowing you would have to go to court on this. There's no, we would take up all those other issues in the ad hoc committee. It draws the line in the sand. If you don't do that, you're just saying the door's open, everybody come in right now, do whatever you want, and it's very hard to tell someone to go.
Want everybody in and register their plots. 100 acres is leveled, it's 10,000 trees.
Excuse me, we are having a council discussion right now, so no one is able to, we did not call on anyone yet, so this is between the council. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Wille explained her amendment to Bill 113, and so 393.51. So I'm going to have a roll call vote. So Mr. Clerk, will you please take the vote? On the amendment, on call for the question, on the call for the question first, sorry. On the call for the question.
Ms. Eoff.
Aye.
Ms. Ford.
No.
Mr. Ilagan.
Aye.
Mr. Kanua.
Aye.
Mr. Kern.
Aye.
Ms. Wille.
Aye.
Mr. Yoshimoto.
Aye.
Chair Poindexter.
Aye.
Chair Poindexter, you have 7 ayes.
So we're going to now take the vote for 393.51 on Bill 113. Mr. Clerk, will you do a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Eoff.
Aye.
Ms. Ford.
No.
Mr. Ilagan.
No.
Mr. Kanua.
Kanua.
Mr. Kern.
Aye.
Ms. Wille.
Aye.
Mr. Yoshimoto.
Aye.
Mr. Kanua.
Aye.
Chair Poindexter.
Aye.
Chair Poindexter, you have 6 ayes.
So amendment 393.51, the proposed 113 is now amended, and now we're back to the main motion, which is on Bill 113. Councilmember Kern.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to mention, is there in our rules where we make an amendment, we have to, is there only a substantial amendment? Only-
Yeah, we're in committee, we're not in council.
Just wanted to make sure, thank you.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'll be really brief. Ms. Willie, I think we all agree there needs to be something to be done. Something needs to be done. I won't vote on it until we get an ad hoc committee. It's the only way that we can actually really, I feel, do something that makes sense. Or before, behind the house. I've seen the pass it now, amend it later, and it doesn't happen for years.
Any other discussion? Councilmember Cleveland.
Yeah, I have a lot of issues, concerns with this bill currently as it's drafted. Registration for one, enforcement for another. I don't remember how long ago, probably in the beginning, a month and a half, 2 months ago, I stated that we're bringing this bill before, like I said with Mr. Kern, we're bringing up this bill, we should have been doing the ad hoc committee first. That should have been done first. And why we do the bill first and then the ad hoc committee does not make any sense at all. I understand the reason. If there was a bill that said, we want to stop these big seed companies, huge swaths of land from coming in and stop open field testing, absolutely. That would have been no problem at all. And then, but this kind of, I have issues. And I don't have the knowledge, the expertise to make this decision that could affect, our island's future, our ag future, and that's a concern for myself. What's the future of our ag? That's the question we should have brought up in the beginning. And personally, for me, I believe that ad hoc committee is, or the task force, or whatever it is, that's what should have been number one priority. And I think we're completely wasting our time, our community's time, taxpayer dollars, on something that should have been talked about first and foremost. So, I don't know how I'm going to vote, but I really wish that could have happened first. So, I'll yield at that time.
Councilmember Ford.
Thank you. I'm going to hold off asking for my expert witnesses right now to make a couple of comments. First of all, we have a very short time frame before the state legislature preempts us by doing something that we may never be able to reverse. That's number one. That's the reason that Margaret's Bill 113 is on the table in front of us. She's always said she wanted an ad hoc committee. Whether I like that or not is immaterial. She's always said that. And the purpose of the ad hoc committee is to look at product by product, crop by crop, to see if there's any reason that we should exempt that particular crop from the constraints of this bill. That was what the ad hoc committee was always about, or it's supposed to be about, not whether or not we're going to have a bill 113 to draw that line in the sand. So there was no reason to have the ad hoc committee first, because we've got a deadline to beat before the state takes over. Otherwise, we're going to be in the same position as Kauai and Molokai. That's the reason Margaret did this bill. Even though I wrote a competing bill, I am supporting Margaret's bill because we've got to get this line in the sand. I understand that we are not PhDs in science, the various different sciences that are involved in this. This is what I read in this last session, since last Monday, to make myself understand the science a little better. And I'm kind of offended that the rest of the council doesn't want to do this kind of homework to figure out what we should or shouldn't be doing. And then don't go in the ad hoc committee. Wait a minute.
Yeah, but wait, hang on.
Making assumptions for the rest of the council.
Exactly. Okay, so if you speak for yourself, and
4.5 months.
I think don't make assumptions unless we
4.5
have
months.
the direct knowledge that
They had time to read.
Thank you for
For
correcting
4.5
me.
months.
I won't make that assumption, but we did have one council member just said, he's not an expert. He said that. I'm not an expert either, okay? I'm just saying, for me, I believe in doing homework and finding out what's going on here, which is why we need to move this bill forward to council and get the line in the sand taken care of. The ad hoc committee can deal with the other issues later on. We've got to get the line in the sand. Thank you. And I'm just terrified that we've invited all these people because some people on the council have said they wanted to hear from experts. I brought in 7 experts last time. I have more standing by to help us understand the pros and the cons. All I seem to hear from are the pro people. Mr. Ilagan was allowed to do his pro people. Thank you.
Councilmember Yoshimoto.
I'm going to talk about the bill. Ms. Wille, so I voted in favor of your amendment because I think it improves upon it. I also believe that it needs further refinement and we can get there as we go along. But it's the concern again. I won't repeat what I just mentioned earlier. I'll just emphasize the fact that we need to do something. I agree with that. As far as whether the state's going to preempt us or not, I mean, you know as well as I do that they have the authority and power to do that. So, I mean, I understand why you're doing what you're trying to do. I just encourage you to do that out today too as well. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you, Councilmember Wille.
I feel it's important that we get to the discussion of the ad hoc and work on that. I'd like to see us move my bill forward to council and look at the nuances where people feel drawing the line. How can we work on that point? And I'm very open to hearing on that. And looking at that issue, I believe in studying what's going on the federal level and state level, that we need to say, the ad hoc committee would report back within a year. So put this bill through, or maybe have a moratorium, or work on how to keep the nuances. We're just drawing the line and not opening the door. I would encourage that. I'm really open to that. But not where we just say, no, we're not doing anything. That's what happened in 2006, 2007. There was, on a state level, they said, no, the ad hoc committee could come first. And nothing ever happened. So I'm just trying to draw the line where we are. And if you all don't feel I've drawn it quite right, how I've written it, I'm really open to looking at those suggestions and those amendments. But I just want us to be realistic about what's happened around the rest of the world and try to, we're not saying this is forever, we're saying even the things that I would like to have on one side, I've gotten hit on from both sides. This should be here, this should be there. I said, well, no, we're just going to stop where we are. And again, if you all don't see how I drafted it, it's exactly how it should be. Consistent with that concept, I really wanted, whether it's Councilmember Yoshimoto or others, but not where we just said, no, we're not going to prohibit anybody else can come in here. I mean, my understanding is there was an offer made by the company that does the GMO dairy on the other GMO dairy. There are other things I know that are going on right now that I don't even want to go through saying what they all are. So I feel my fear is real and not just speculative. Again, one more time I'll repeat it. I'm really open to suggestions in terms of how we draw the line. What is that line in the sand? But that we move forward. I think there's science on both sides. I don't think that whether Ms. Ford feels, I feel there is science on both sides, and that's why we're saying where there's science on both sides, we put it into the ad hoc committee and so I ask to move it forward to council, look at amendments that would improve my drafting and move on to the discussion of the ad hoc.
Councilmember Kern?
Thank you. Can I have Ms. Kathy Garcia's report?
Good afternoon. Kathy Carson, Assistant Corporation Counsel.
Thank you very much. I want to just make sure that we're all aware of this. If this gets passed, say it gets passed, probably next couple of months, and the state legislature convenes and they make a law that the basically says what we can't do.
You're preempted.
We're preempted, so we're
I
good.
mean, it's basically, it takes over the entire, basically, yes.
The state would preempt us, even if we already had it passed.
Yes.
Am I hearing that right? So we could pass this thing, GMOs are banned. The state can come in and say, sorry, Hawaii County, we're changing that. That's against the state law now.
It's an oversimplification, but yes.
Okay. Thank you. So therefore, I do not see any reason that this argument is being made that we have to do this right now because the state's going to come in and change everything. Because even if we do this right now, the state can still come in and change everything.
We know that.
Am I wrong?
Are you asking for a
I'm
question?
asking you, Ms. Garrison. That's the way. But if that's what it is, I mean, that's law. Law is
Yes,
the law.
it depends on what the state does and how that compares to what we do.
Of
So
course.
without knowing what they're doing and what final form their bill, it's a difficult question to answer. However, in general, it could be.
It could be, and if we had a law that was built, they could actually tailor something that was specific to preempt us specifically if they wanted to.
It could.
They could. And if they're trying to do something and we were having an ad hoc committee and we came and we tried to do something that was to counteract them, we could do that too. We could try, but regardless, so then if the state led wants to do what they're gonna do, we're hurting. Thank you, Ms. Carson.
Thank you. Councilmember Wille, then Councilmember Ford.
An example, Councilmember Kern, is say with coffee or taro. Often when a local and a municipality passes something, if they say this applies other than where there's already a local law in effect. And that's what happened in the case. When there was the state legislation, what it said was any law on this point that was passed prior to January 1 of that session stands, is honored. And otherwise, here's what takes effect. It would, in other words, there's respect for what the local government does say. It doesn't say that it couldn't happen, but we have much more force when we say, here is what we're doing, and we're doing it in a responsible way. We're passing this bill that draws the line, and we're looking at things in a deliberative way. I mean, I feel we all learned a great deal, we've all studied a great deal. So, yes, the concept is it's always possible, as she said, but often, like just as Obama has said, that this should be a floor, not a ceiling. The state could actually come in and say, here it is, this is a floor, not a ceiling. There's always the possibility they could come in and just target us, but I'm just saying the likelihood of us being able to control what happens on our island will largely be determined by what we do before December, and that's just political reality. So it is, I agree with her that it's possible, but I'm just saying the way that we can have the most control over our lives and our island is to do something, have something in place and go on with the ad hoc committee.
Councilmember Wille? Councilmember Ford, I'm sorry.
I agree with everything that Ms. Wille said. The other thing is, the world is watching us to see what we do. All the countries that have banned, whether temporarily or permanently, GMO products are watching us. The rest of the state is watching us. And I think it behooves us to not only take the position of Ms. Wille, draw that line in the sand, but also let the rest of the state representatives and senators know that there's one county that's willing to take a stand to protect our citizens, our residents, our visitors. We need to do that. Just to roll over and say, well, someday the state will preempt us, let's not do anything, I think it's the wrong position to take. I think we need to take the position of being proactive to protect ourselves. We don't want to be like Hawaii. We don't want to deal with the issues that Molokai is dealing with. We need to do something now. And I am saying now because I don't frankly trust the state legislature. Even though I agree with Ms. Wille that a lot of times they do honor laws that have been passed by localities. They may not in this case, and then we'll have to deal with that when we get there. On the other hand, they might be able to grant us the latitude to have home rule on this side. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Ilagan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to call up Mrs. Stokes and Mr. English. Mrs. Stokes is a veterinarian, and one of the things that I keep hearing is to protect our citizens. And I have a question regarding what happens when you eat a GMO product. And because somebody mentioned about the whole DNA transfer from GMO-related products to us. What, like, when you eat it, what happens exactly? Mrs. Stokes, could you?
State your name for the record.
Hi, I'm Dr. Ashley Stokes.
And so the question is, what happens to,
What happens to DNA from GMO-related products when you eat them?
You know, that's a,
but that, is that in the bill?
Well, the reason why we're doing this is for public safety, and that's,
Okay,
if
go
that's
ahead.
not in the bill, then
Answer about, I guess, I don't know if we're talking about nutritional.
I just,
You know, like you, what Zendo Kern said about restaurants, and I was talking about nutrition. So I'm gonna allow this. Be very careful on what we're doing, because remember, we're talking about the bill. Mr. Kern made a valid statement that we're not talking about restaurants, and when people eating their food, they want to make sure, it's a consuming food. So this is almost in that same line with consuming food. So be very careful. I'm going to allow this one question, if you can quickly answer it, I'll allow it. Thank you.
I think it actually is a really good question if you're talking about public safety and the concerns with genetically modified organisms, so I think it's a good question. So I have a doctorate in veterinary medicine, and I also have a doctorate in physiology and pharmacology, so I have a good background in the field. Well, you know, we're exposed to DNA from everywhere. I mean, you touch the door handle, it's there. Everything you eat, it contains genetic material. And so the body is really well versed in dealing with it and actually breaking it down to protect ourselves. So it's bacteria, they're in our mouths, it's everywhere. So if DNA, whenever it goes into the stomach, it's broken down within 30 seconds to the point that it can't do anything. So again, it's the way for the body to deal with what we eat and to protect us.
Thank you. And you know, I'm going to stop you there, because all of us has had you in our office. You told me the same thing, and you sat with them, and that explains
I have never
the
sat
breakdown.
with Mrs. Stokes.
Actually, I haven't met with
Yeah.
all the council members.
Okay, so I thought you just did the breakdown really good now that our bodies are.
Well,
Yeah, there are a lot of proofreading, for our own DNA to protect it, and there are a lot of steps along the way that the body protects itself because we are exposed to so many different things.
Ms. Stokes, one of the things I've also, there's 2 GMO crops that's being grown here that I'm aware of, and that's the rainbow papaya and is it the BT corn or what is it?
Well, it's the corn that is safer for Roundup.
Okay. Now, have you seen any differences, because you're a veterinarian and animals is your expertise. I wanted to know, is there any difference between animals eating GM products and non-GM products?
I haven't seen any differences, and I've followed them through their entire lives, their life cycles, and all the way to the final product of what goes into the market. I haven't seen any differences.
Hang on 1 second. If we're going to be doing that, I'm going to ask you to be removed from the chambers here. So any outbursts, I will ask, the next person gets an outburst will get asked to be removed. And even if I have to call, for some help to get you removed, you will be removed. So please, please be respectful of everyone here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Stokes. Mr. English, you're a VP for the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council, and you've been in cattle industry for a very long time. How long have you been?
Actively employed for 15 years of my career and pretty much my entire life on Hawaii Island.
Now, if this Bill 113 passed, how does it affect your industry?
It just puts not just livestock, but any farmer here at a comparative disadvantage to any other county or any other state as far as basically the tools in the box. Turning our back on technology, I think it's a dangerous road to go down, to not have options to increase the efficiency of producing ag products.
I wanted to ask Council Member Wille a question. Is that okay, Madam Chair?
Sure.
Council Member Wille, did you want to go ahead with the ad hoc committee, or are you really head on trying to pass this bill?
It's a package. So I want to we either have a choice. You just leave the door open and do the ad hoc and when it happens. Or you say stop. And nobody does anything different today than they were doing yesterday. It just holds everyone
Thank you, Council Member.
allowed to be
So I just got one last question. Councilmember Wille says that it won't affect anyone, but with your industry, will it be an effect regarding because the papaya industry, even though they're exempt, they still are registered. And for the cattle industry, I believe it will affect them.
Okay, for clarification purposes, I think it's whatever they're doing now, they're able to, so if you're importing your feed, that is GMO feed, like how we have in the stores, some GMO products on the shelves, it's the same thing. It'll still, they're not, but if they were to grow their own barley or whatever, which they're not really doing now, you're importing. So anyway,
Well, Madam Chair, could you please clarify that on the legislation?
I'm going to ask Councilmember Wille to clarify that on your bill, please.
Okay.
Where exactly does it state, because your bill is now amendment to the 393.51.
So it would be grandfathering anyone that's doing GMO product right now. But what Mr. English is saying is that it would eliminate options for his industry, such that someone who wanted to grow GMO would be, while this bill is in place, and unless and until the ad hoc committee says otherwise, they would not be able to utilize that technology of, say, growing their own GM corn.
So Councilmember Wille, you stated that they get to do what they were doing before. Now you just said that they're eliminating options. So how is that doing the same thing they were doing before?
Exactly. None of them are growing GMO corn right now. It eliminates, it holds in place where they are right now. If, let's just say there's an unknown, let's just say Mr. English actually does have a GMO open air cornfield, he would be exempt. I don't know about it. I wrote it so that...
Well, please, could you clarify on your written legislation where it says that...
Yes. In the exemptions, it says persons engaged in the open air cultivation, propagation, or development of genetically engineered crops or plants. So say Mr. English is doing just that. And this, we deal with papaya in another paragraph. Only in those specific locations where they are growing them and have been doing it before the effective date of this article, they would be exempt other than to register. So they can continue doing, it's foreclosing a future option. It's just saying, don't bring in something that would undermine all your neighboring non-GMO farmers until we look at it and see how you can do coexistence. It's eliminating a few, holding in place as to what you're all, the current status, the current agricultural practice.
Then why is it when it says, but only in, it says that other than genetically engineered papaya, and then number 2, the provision 2 says any persons engaged in open air cultivation, propagation, and development of genetically engineered papaya. So papaya has its own separate provision, which means the cattleman industry doesn't have that same opportunity. It's not only does the papaya industry has to register, so they're not doing the same thing that they were doing before. They're now going to be publicly out there with this registration. So this is additional cost for them that they didn't have before this bill even occurred.
We give a preference to papaya. It's here. Realistically, we can't say don't do it. So we are giving papaya as an industry an exemption. It's the one industry that's out there. So we're doing it as you and others in your district
I have a question.
requested.
Mr. English, are you currently growing any BT corn, or do you know of any cattlemen who are, and also any other ranchers?
I'm not aware of any genetic GM corn for beef cows being grown.
Okay. Now, you said that what I was hearing also was that one of the options is taken away, which is a feedstock, a GM feedstock. Now, that feedstock option, is that being used in this item currently as an option for the cattleman industry?
There is supplementation on a small scale, but it's using imported energy and protein feed coming from the mainland, essentially, not grown here. But it's economically it's not viable to import a large amount of grain here to produce cattle of a consistent quality.
Could you please repeat that? So it's not viable for what?
To import feedstock.
So it's better to grow your own or make your own feedstock?
If it's an option that it presents itself.
And that option will probably never happen, or will it?
Taking a step back, there's a lot of work going on to increase local, having beef stay here and get finished for the local food supply. But we're at with just grass and without supplementation, we're at the mercy, particularly with moisture. I mean, we've been particularly on the west side, we've been in a major drought, so it's been very challenging to finish larger quantities of cattle here for market.
Thank you, Mr. English. So, this is my final thoughts. I just want to ask Councilmember Wille one last question. And from my understanding of what I just heard is that there isn't anyone growing any GM crops for feedstock. And it is not viable to import it because it's rather expensive. But given the opportunity to make that feedstock here would be very beneficial for the cattleman industry. Sorry, my time.
So I'm going to allow her, Councilmember Wille, to answer the question and then move on because your time is up. So, Councilmember Wille?
I agree that as transportation costs go up, there could be an impetus to growing more of the feedstock here. The question is whether you grow non-GMO corn, which I believe there's like 150 varieties that are non-GMO, or you grow GMO corn, okay? The GMO corn, let's just take my community of Waimea. Let's say Parker Ranch decided we want to grow GMO corn. We've got all these conventional and organic farmers in Lalomillo that are downwind that would then, that GMO drift over to them and they would have contaminated fields. So you would be making, you're trying to assert a choice for you to have the freedom to choose something that would harm others. So that's why where there are other options available, and that's as testimony has come before, the point is that we do things in a way that gives us the maximum freedom of choice without hurting others. And that's where I'm coming at, is preventing that harm to others.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councilmember Yoshimoto.